Hey there and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. My name is Pete and today we complete another chapter in the story of Sylvia Hairyfoot, the Dark Urge Halfling Bard who is at the center of this honor mode walkthrough. Last time we left off, after thoroughly exploring some overgrown ruins and a dank crypt deep inside, we fought some looters, some undead, and eventually encountered Withers, a much more peaceful undead who promptly joined us in camp, apparently to offer his services to recruit hirelings and resurrect fallen party members. Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can currently get 20% off of all monthly and yearly subscriptions to my Patreon with the code COMPLETE. This offer is only running until Sunday and it applies to all tiers, and since our upcoming new series of The Sims 3 World Adventures will be populated entirely with naming rights supporters from Patreon and YouTube memberships, I just wanted to briefly point that out. Back to the action at hand. Now, to quickly get things going today, off-screen I already exchanged Shadowheart for Astarion. He will be a bit more useful for what comes next. I also recast Longstride on everyone and Speak with Animals on Sylvia, and also gave some of Sylvia's inventory to Lae'zel to free up carry weight. I have also re-equipped the Everburn blade on Lae'zel and gave her a helmet to help with dexterity saving throws, while Gale is sporting the Watcher's Guide. He likely won't attack from melee at all, but it's better than the quarterstaff he previously wielded. And with that, I would say we're good to go. Let's leave camp, only to find ourselves back where we left off last time, at the chapel entrance. At this point, we want to bring up the map and use the Sigil fast-traveling system. We're not going far, just down to the beach here to the overgrown ruins main entrance. You may recall that in episode 2 we looted everything not pinned down in this location, but it is worth revisiting as we can speak with some of the dead here. So a couple of quick corpse conversations to get us started here today.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Now, this first person here, we can only ask 3 questions in total. We'll quickly do so and then move on to the next.
Ellie, fisherwoman, Ultra, no, upriver, too far, chased ill. Braves chased me.
So, a fishing woman from Elturel killed by intellect devourers while chasing an elf. Some of that we want to keep in mind as we approach the next figure here, because yes, using the Amulet of Lost Voices we can recast Speak with the Dead as often as we like.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
And once again, we want to begin by asking who he is, or rather was.
Marcus, fisherman.
Then, instead of asking what he was doing, we want to learn how he died.
Brains. Didn't see him coming.
Now that's curious. Let's find out why exactly he didn't see them coming.
Woman. Beautiful. Couldn't look away.
Right, he mentions a beautiful woman. Maybe we can track her down if we learn where she went.
Went west. Others followed. Couldn't help themselves.
And that certainly sounds a bit suspicious, but maybe there were others who survived.
Elf. Ran north. Up the beach.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Alright, even more mentions of an elf heading north. The beautiful woman, meanwhile, probably someone a bit more sinister, although we do not know exactly whether or not she has any connection to the Mind Flayers or Intellect Devourers. Now, there is one more body we can talk to. This one is found inside the Nautiloid's wreckage.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
And once again, we begin by asking who we're talking to.
Francis. Merchant. Selling pottery.
Then we want to learn what happened to him.
Guiding my cart. Shadow fell. Tentacle grabbed me, took me here, put something in my eye.
Alright, that sounds familiar, and while chances are slim, maybe he knows of a way to get rid of the tadpole.
Find healer, or die. It'll leave.
Right, no plans on doing that anytime soon, but maybe he can at least shed some light on why we were taken.
No. Took everyone. Peasants. Lords. Took them all.
Right, and at this point it's probably not worth asking about how he died or whether or not he has any valuables. Instead, with our final question, let's offer our bardic services of crafting a stunning tale.
Doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Okay, so that's part 1 of today's list of things to do completed. There are no more dead anywhere in the vicinity that we can talk to, at least not for now. So let's bring up the map again, and this time we want to travel to the roadside cliffs. This is where we initially found Gale. Now, from here we want to head north, and you may also recall from episode 2 that in a roughly northern direction we heard some shouting. So as we head past the spot where we rescued Lae'zel from the Tieflings, we eventually come across a small hill, and climbing up it reveals the source of the shouting, a small group of people standing in front of what looks to be a gate. Right, don't know if you caught that, but he mentioned something about goblins, so we might be heading for some sort of trouble here. Just to be safe, let's activate Lae'zel's Githyanki psionics and triple her jumping distance, and then approach with her first to see what all the fuss is about.
Open the bloody gate!
Nobody gets in! Zevlor's orders!
That pack of goblins will be on us any second!
What's going on?
Goblins are on our tail! Open the gate, Zevlor, now!
You let goblins here? Where is the druid?
Please! There's no time!
By the 9 hells! Open the gate! Damnable roach! Provoke the blade and suffer its sting.
Alright, time for some actions. This here is by far our largest fight yet. But while we are facing a grand total of 8 enemies, mostly goblins, but also a bugbear and a warg among them, we have a few additional folks on our side too. 3 fighters on the ground, the tiefling up above the gate, and of course that hero with the blade who already killed 2 goblins. Wyll is his name, that much we can gather from hovering over him. Now, our goal in this fight is to make sure that all of our allies survive. To that end, we move up with Sylvia here and use her offhand attack to attack the goblin archer, who has somehow teleported right next to us. And with that attack, consuming only her bonus action but still dealing 7 points of damage, we have the action left for Cloud of Daggers, a 2nd level spell that deals guaranteed damage to anyone in its radius. Casting it on the trio down here severely hurts 2 of the 3 toughest enemies in this fight, the goblin boss and the bugbear. And that's not the end of it. Apart from this initial damage, all 3 of these enemies will now also take damage once more at the beginning of their turn. Unfortunately, the bugbear then delivers double criticals to one of the defenders here, while Zevlor the Tiefling blows the horn to give everyone the rallied status, and also delivers a nice hit on the goblin's one and only spellcaster. Remira the archer meanwhile misses the walk, and with that it's back to us. Gale is up next, but you may have noticed that our entire squad has gained 8 temporary hit points, which might make my secondary goal of completing this fight without taking any damage a bit easier. I actually checked, and surprisingly, none of our permanent party members have taken as much as a single point of damage since we left the Nautiloid. Perhaps we can keep that streak going for a little while longer. Now with Gale, the job is simple. Magic missile it is, 3 bolts to ensure the enemy spellcaster goes down. And there we are, 1 down, 7 more to go. Let's see what this Wyll can do. Alright, seemingly not only a gifted swordsman, but a spellcaster too. Meanwhile, Astarion is up next, and with him we need to get a little finicky, as we want to toggle off automatic sneak attacks. I'm not sure why, but I have noticed that sometimes with that setting enabled, going for the offhand attack also makes him use his main hand. However, it is crucial that he only consumes the bonus action here. And that he does, while also taking out the second enemy. Time to re-enable sneak attacks and then use his second bonus action to hide. And outside of the other Goblin Archer's sight range here, we can now sneak up on him. At this point we only have the 1 attack from his main hand, but we will get a sneak attack, and that should hopefully deal enough damage. Lovely, that's 3 enemies down. At this point we might as well also loot the body already, although these regular goblins here do not have a whole lot on them. And since he can't quite make it over to the other goblin, let's simply end our turn, which sees another goblin killed by Cloud of Daggers, and then brings us to their leader.
Scouts! Get to the high ground! Raiders! Charge the bastards! For the absolute!
Alright, what a play here by Aradin, shoving the goblin boss back into the Cloud of Daggers. The walk, meanwhile, thankfully does not go after the already heavily injured defender. Meanwhile, Wyll takes some damage, but only to his temporary hit points. Speaking of hit points, the goblin boss only has 1 of them remaining. Meanwhile, the Bugbear is up soon and a big threat to actually kill one of the defenders. And that is why we tripled Lae'zel's jump distance, as she can now close the gap with 1 big leap. And we're going for the trip attack here, mostly because of its damage potential. I am more than willing to burn an action surge on this though. Alright, looks like that won't be needed. The Bugbear goes down and can also immediately be looted. That's it for Lae'zel's turn, which brings us to the very injured Barth, who does the only sensible thing and heals themselves. Not only that, the goblin boss also gets taken out, and with that the fight is starting to look very manageable. Only 2 enemies are left standing, and one of them is a goblin with only 4 hit points left. So at this point I think we can safely dispel the Cloud of Daggers to make the area safe to traverse for everyone. And then we drop down the hill with Sylvia to take a shot at that aforementioned goblin. That too connects, and just like that we now have 6 allies coming up before the walk gets to act. Hopefully enough to take it out. Right, 10 points of damage from our allies, and then it's Gale's turn, who will simply do the same thing again. Yes, he has other spells with a higher damage potential, but in the early game I feel like it's more about making sure that your attacks actually land. Wyll then, instead of attacking, heals his party member, and with that it's Astarion's turn. The Warg has 13 hit points left. That should be doable with a sneak attack. His first of 2 bonus actions, meanwhile, is used on dashing to actually get into range. Then, bringing up the enemy sidelines, we can see that the enemy can't spot him here, so we can use the second bonus action to hide. And then finally, we use his action for a ranged sneak attack with an 88% hit chance.
That was the last of them. Inside! All of you! More may follow! Open the gate!
And there it is. The fight is won, and despite it not being prominently displayed on screen, we have actually gained inspiration with Lae'zel for keeping all the defenders of the grove alive. Now, at this point, let's get to looting a few of the corpses we have already dealt with. Overall, there's not a whole lot here. Again, most of these were regular goblins, carrying not more than just a few gold pieces and their weapons. Although the goblin boss is carrying the Gloves of Power. The Absolute's Bane bonus is sadly tied to a specific condition, but nonetheless, the gloves give a +1 bonus to sleight of hand, so they would be a solid choice for someone like Astarion, for example. Now, with all the goblin enemies taken out, the Emerald Grove's gates are opened for us, and we actually already heard of this grove from the Tieflings we met in episode 2 who had captured Lae'zel. They mentioned that we might be able to find a healer here, but first let's head over to someone whom no healing can save.
Kanon?
It's gone, Arka.
No! Get up, Kanon!
And this dialogue here is actually time sensitive. You need to be somewhat quick about it, otherwise you'll miss it.
He's not breathing! Go find a healer!
Do not embarrass yourself. He is gone.
No!
You shiver at the thought of a radiant future. Goblin and Tiefling may reap slaughter upon one another until none remain, if you guide them true.
Right, perhaps a good moment here to embrace the darker side of Sylvia Hairyfoot. So let's encourage the Tieflings here to spread the violence back to the Goblins. Don't worry, the outcome of this conversation will always remain the same.
They'll slaughter us if we leave. There's nothing we can do.
They're slaughtering us now! Someone's going to pay for this.
Arka, no, wait! What are you doing?
And as Arka runs off, crossbow in hand and with Memnos in close pursuit, we can now talk to the dead yet again, as the spell also works on Kanon over here.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
And as usual, we will begin by asking him who he is.
Kanon.
Then we want to learn a bit more about where he's from.
We, from Elturel, left.
And now we can ask who left Elturel with him.
Sister Arka.
So we learn that Arka is his sister. Let's also learn a bit more about Kanon himself by asking about his profession.
Tailor before God volunteered.
And since we have a pretty good idea of what happened to him, let's use our last question to ask him about his valuables.
Couldn't take much in bedroll.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Right, so that's Kanon taken care of. There are two mourning tieflings standing right next to him, but they do not have anything to say to us for the moment. Instead, we can now speak to the gate guard.
Glad you made it inside. Doubt we'll be safe here for long, though. There'll be more coming. Goblins hunt in packs.
Once again, this is a rather brief conversation. However, in this one we can gain some approval by going with dialogue option number 3 here, teasing her for being scared of a few goblins.
A few goblins? Felt like a lot more to me. So yes, I'm scared. And I'm not ashamed of that.
When I was homesick, he never let it show, but he was homesick too.
Right, so after gaining some approval from Lae'zel and Astarion, we are now going to do something that will most likely earn us Astarion's favor even more. Having just learned where Kanon keeps his valuables, we can now go into stealth mode with the entire party. The Tieflings are still busy mourning or overlooking the gate, so we can help ourselves to 2 magical arrows as well as some gold and a gemstone. The surrounding crates also all have a single item of food inside of them, and while we're at it, we're going to loot those too, add it all up, and that's a good chunk of the next long rest already secured. Now at this point, we want to keep exploring. There's nothing over in this area, and this path down here only leads us further into the grove. So we're heading back across the gate bridge and then take the path leading off to the right here. Up the hill we go, where we're in for a small surprise. That's right, it's combat time once more. A lone Bugbear assassin has apparently tried to sneak up on a Tiefling. We have caught him mid-ambush, and that means he is now surprised, which should hopefully allow us to take him out before he can strike. Astarion is up first. He can climb up the rocks here, use his bonus action to go into hiding, and then use his action for a ranged sneak attack. 9 points of damage, that's a bit underwhelming to be honest. But the turn is not done yet. We use the rest of his movement to climb back down the rocks and then use the second bonus action to dash. That way we might be able to get behind the Bugbear for a more powerful melee sneak attack on the next turn. Now ending Astarion's turn skips the Bugbears because of surprise and brings us to Sylvia, who, just like Astarion, will also climb up the rocks and then unleash a slashing flourish, 2 shots with a 70% hit chance each. 1 hit, 1 miss, 9 more points of damage, that's lovely. Time for Gale to enter the fight, and with what else but magic missile. That brings the Bugbear down to only 5 hit points, and it is now Lae'zel's turn. The problem with her is, though, that even with jumping she can't quite get close enough, perhaps because of Gale blocking her path, so she too climbs up the rocks and launches a crossbow bolt. Right, a somewhat unexpected critical hit, but that's the Bugbear dealt with. Time to grab some loot, even though it's nothing special, and then we might want to speak to the surviving Tiefling Nadira.
You have good timing. Never been much of a fighter, so wrestling a Bugbear would have gone poorly. But you're not here for heroics, are you? Avernus's stench is all over your skin. Let me guess. Your devil mistress sent you to get her soul coin back. Too bad. I earned it, fair and square.
Right, so she just mentioned soul coins, and we are familiar with those from the Dank Crypt, where we collected 3. And while we do have the possibility to go for the deception check that we would actually roll with advantage here, we're not going to do so. There are other ways to obtain this coin. For now, let's just show ourselves confused.
You almost seem honest. Care to explain why you reek of the hells?
And, well, there is in fact a very good explanation for it. After all, we have been to the 9 hells. Convincing her of that, though, will require a successful persuasion check. However, we will roll this one with advantage too, and with a DC of 5 and a +7 modifier to it, it is guaranteed to succeed.
Well, that's quite the story. And I thought I was doomed. Now I feel sorry for you. Here. Take this. It's worth a fortune. But a fortune's not worth much if you're dead. Consider it payment for saving my life.
A soul coin, true to its name, holds a mortal soul inside. It serves in the 9 hells as very valuable currency.
So, there we are, soul coin obtained without lying about working for some devil. This is now in fact number 4, and there's only a finite amount of them in the game. Up next then, we're going to employ the services of Astarion for a second, since he's got the highest perception skill of the party, potentially useful as we take a look through the telescope here.
You peer through the telescope.
To make out whatever flies around in the distance, we can choose from 2 perception checks. Both have the same DC, so the choice here is only for flavor. A DC of 10, a bonus of 3, and we've got plenty of inspiration points should we need them. No need to burn a bardic one just yet.
You see a dragon circling like a bird of prey, hunting.
So, a dragon can be found in a roughly western direction, good to keep in mind.
The telescope points to the left.
Meanwhile, to the left of it, we can see the Nautiloid wreck. This is where we came to after the prologue. and if we eventually turn the telescope to the right, we can see the broken roofs of a building that has definitely seen better days. This one appears to be somewhat close by. Moving on then, we want to hop down the path that the Bugbear assassin likely took to get up here, at the bottom of which we can find another dirt mound with a hidden treasure beneath it. Excavating it not only gives us an elixir of arcane cultivation and some other good loot, but also marks the 4th buried chest we have now dug up in this playthrough, only one more until we unlock the next achievement. For now, there is one more not entirely legal thing we want to do, and it requires splitting Astarion off from the rest of the group and entering sneak mode. Doing so allows him to get right next to Nadira unseen, from whom we can now pickpocket a scroll of Featherfall, the most valuable item she has and guaranteed to be snatched without her seeing it, as the DC is only 5 and Astarion gets a +7 to the roll. By the way, when I say that things are guaranteed to succeed, that is of course always except in those cases where we roll a natural 1. Now, if we quickly sneak back to the party, Nadira will notice the theft, but won't spot the thief. Despite the conversation here alluding to the fact that we are now wanted suspects, that's actually not the case, more on that later. For now, continuing down the path gets us to a wooden construction overlooking a central pool with some statues. The structure here can be used to get down there, but not at the moment, as there is a bear asleep at its base. And speaking of wildlife, right in front of us we encounter a squirrel. Let's talk to it.
The squirrel lunges at your foot and bites it.
Now, I'll warn you, this next bit could get a bit brutal, but we're playing a Dark Urge character and sometimes we have to indulge this urge, and that's exactly what we're doing by picking the 3rd dialogue option here.
Before you can think twice, your lustful body speaks its profane language.
Terrific. If I'm ever harangued by a rodent, I'll know who to call for.
You stare at the body before you. You have no idea what just happened.
Right, so that was certainly something. And indeed, originally we just made a dialogue choice, not the violently kick the squirrel against the tree option, so let us at least make sure our party knows that.
The swirling bile cauldron of your brain is cooking up a poisoned stew.
And there we go, another inspiration gained, albeit a rather brutal one. It is 30 XP though, much more than we could have gained from any other interaction with the animal. Now at this point we quickly want to head back to our camp. Here the first thing we do is transfer all of Astarion's items to Sylvia, and then we're going to have Shadowheart join the party in his stead.
Wonderful. I was beginning to feel a little left out.
So, with Shadowheart recruited, there's one thing we want to do before heading back to the Grove, and that's to have her have a brief conversation with Withers.
Ah, another. Thy name has been recorded. I shall be here in thy camp for whenever thou hast need of my services.
And here we want to pick the change class option, even if it costs us 100 gold. But don't worry, we will keep this lore friendly and won't make any radical changes.
As thou desire.
As a matter of fact, we will keep Shadowheart a cleric, we will also keep the same cantrips, Sacred Flame, Guidance and Resistance, and we will also keep the Trickery Domain subclass. The only thing we're slightly going to modify are her ability scores. By default, Shadowheart is invested into both Strength and Dexterity, although she does not really excel at either one. We're going to change that and also make her slightly more tanky in the process by assigning her +1 bonus to Constitution instead of Strength. That way, with only one more point, we can get that up to 16. Strength, meanwhile, gets dropped down to 10, while Dexterity increases to 14. This now increases Shadowheart's Dexterity bonus to +2, albeit at the cost of no longer being quite so good at using Strength-based melee weapons. Everything else remains as it is, but I think this reallocation gives her a bit more of a clear profile, hopefully resulting in an increase to her usefulness, especially in combat in the early game. Now, after making these changes, we also get the chance to overhaul any changes we made at levels 2 and 3, but we're not going to. The 100 gold was spent purely on redistributing those ability points, and so with Hold Person and Spiritual Weapon once again in the loadout as our level 2 spells, we are good to go. Perhaps one of the more noticeable changes is that Shadowheart now sports an armor class of 18, so let's cast Longstrider on her and then return to the Druid Grove. In that grove, you recall that we may or may not be wanted criminals. An easy way to find out about our status is to simply talk to Rika, the Tiefling guard who responded to Namira's complaints.
Glad you were here for those goblins. Picked one off yesterday myself. Shot her through the throat. That should have killed her, but she kept gasping, clawing at the arrow.
And that certainly does not sound like she wants to arrest us anytime soon. How we respond here, meanwhile, does not have any further consequences and also won't earn us any approval, although in some ways I feel like a Dark Urge would have a very good sense of what it means to lose themselves in violence, so option 3 here strikes me as oddly fitting.
I had the same thought, and it's just going to keep happening.
Right, and with that taken care of, we can now climb back down the ladder and witness more of the aftermath of the Goblin Attack.
There are children here, you fool!
We was running for our lives.
You led them straight to us, and you let them take the druid too? Unbelievable!
Right, a heated conversation between Aradin and Zevlor. We could let this escalate, but we might also want to work with one of them later. And there is a Bard exclusive option here that lets us attempt to defuse the situation, so let's roll for persuasion. The DC here is a moderate 15, and that is really the main reason why I brought Shadowheart back into the party. That way we can now benefit from the 1d4 guidance bonus, although in this case it looks like we won't need it.
And who the hell are you again?
Show some respect. This woman saved your pathetic life.
Well, I didn't ask for any goddamn help.
Please, you were begging me to open the gate. Anything to save yourself, you coward!
The human's eye twitches. He's about to blow.
Interestingly enough, the guidance we added to the roll earlier may have also just helped us succeed the inside roll. And once again, we want to go for a peaceful solution here, and what better way to do so than with our bread and butter skill Persuasion. Once again, the DC is 15 and we get at least a +8 bonus, so even a 9 is enough to succeed.
You're right. There's too much at stake.
Worried about your precious hides, the both of you.
Enough! Squabbling is pointless. The goblins have found us.
At least we agree on that.
More goblin vermin could be on their way.
So, after gaining approval from both Shadowheart and Gale, we now want to speak to Zevlor once more.
Forgive that display. Aradin's a blowhard, but that's no cause for me to join him. Thank you for your help out there. I'm Zevlor.
And, well, I don't see the harm in introducing ourselves.
Well met. I should warn you, visitors are no longer welcome in this grove. Whatever your business, I'd see to it quickly. The druids are forcing everyone out. This attack will only strengthen their resolve.
Right, so the druids not too happy with the tieflings, it appears. Let's find out a bit more about what's going on here.
There have been several attacks by different monsters. The druids blame us outsiders for drawing them here. Nobody's welcome anymore. They've started a ritual to cut the grove off from the world outside. We can't stay, but we'll be slaughtered if we leave. We're no fighters.
Well, that certainly does not sound like a great situation for the tieflings, although one has to wonder why they chose the grove as their refuge in the first place.
We're refugees from Elturel. We took shelter here after gnolls attacked us on the road. We were bound for Baldur's Gate, and it was too late to turn back. Elturel had no place for tieflings after the descent.
The descent. An infernal conspiracy that had seen the entire city of Elturel briefly dragged to the hells.
And with tieflings generally being frowned upon in most places, their treatment by the druids is perhaps unfortunate, but sadly not entirely out of the ordinary.
A fair point. We can only hope the citizens of Baldur's Gate are more open-minded. But we can't get there with those beasts blocking our path.
At this point then, we want to inquire about a healer. After all, that is what we're actually here for.
Goblin got you. The druid Halsin's a renowned healer, but he didn't make it back from Aradin's expedition. If it's not too serious, you could try his apprentice Nettie. She's with the other druids in the Inner Grove. They've withdrawn there to prepare this damn ritual of theirs.
Seems like this entire conflict boils down to that ritual being stopped or going through. Maybe there's something that can be done to change the druids' minds.
I've tried. Korga, their new first druid, won't even see me. You, though? I know it's not your business, but she owes you for saving this place. Perhaps you could persuade her. For more time to prepare, if nothing else.
And before we make a decision, let's ask what we could get out of it. Again, there is the rather serious matter of a tadpole in our brain.
We'd owe you a great debt. What little we have, we'll scrape together. It isn't coin we need, it's time.
And at least at this point, we actually want to decline our help for the aforementioned reasons. This will earn us some approval from Lae'zel and Shadowheart.
We've our problems, granted, but there might be some merit in shutting down a local conflict, no?
I understand. I can only thank you for the help you've already given. If you'll excuse me, I'd best get my people moving.
Right then, Zevlor wanders off. Don't worry, we will meet him again soon. First of all, though, we can help ourselves to the contents of the crates on the carriage here. None of this is considered stealing. Some more food and clothing. And then we enter the Hollow, where there seems to be yet another conflict to be solved.
This is about your precious Baldur's Gate. I care about our lives, our futures.
No, you just care about your stupid apprenticeship.
Get a feel for it. Take that back, right now.
Hells, we can't just leave. They're kin.
I'll not gamble our lives, our futures, on people who are as good as dead. We must leave for Baldur's Gate at once. Can we all just take a moment, please?
What's the point in blazing spells if we don't bloody use them? We should stay. These people aren't fighters. We can help.
Or yell louder. That's fine too.
Now, convincing the tieflings to stay is really the sensible option, not only to strengthen the grove's defenses, but also because they would surely perish on the road by themselves. All it takes is a DC 10 persuasion check to succeed here, guaranteed with the bonuses we get.
Thank you. It's the right thing to do, and you know it.
She's right, Roland. We're better than this.
Zergan. Fine, I'll stay too. Lest you both end up with your throats slit by Goblin Blade.
Thank you, Roland.
And with the other two wandering off, we can talk to Roland again.
We should have left by now. Damnation! Instead, we're just sitting here, practically begging to be attacked. Staying is a mistake.
This conversation allows us to get a bit more info about his motives, and he might be in need of some cheering up, something that halflings are usually quite good at, even if they occasionally have dark urges.
Of course I will be, as if there was any doubt. You are looking at Laroican's newest apprentice. Yes, that Laroican, the greatest wizard in Baldur's Gate.
I've heard that name before. A young man, yes? Lives in Ramaz's tower in the upper city.
The very same.
Word in Waterdeep has it he's a bit of a cad. But you say he's an accomplished wizard.
Of course he is. The greatest spellcaster along the Sword Coast. As if I'd settle for a lesser mentor.
In that case, I'd very much appreciate it if you could arrange an introduction, should we reach the city.
Right, and since our character seemingly stems from Baldur's Gate, we have apparently heard of that name before, although not necessarily in the same stories that Roland has heard.
Common gossip. The byproducts of ignorance and jealousy. I've admired Lorroakan for years. Never dreamed he'd answer my letter. But I've worked myself to the bone for this. Few can match me in either magic or talent. The names Roland and Lorroakan will be known far and wide. You'll see.
Right, sounds like we might want to keep tabs on this Lorroakan. For now though, we can head back to a fellow halfling, the first trader we encounter in this playthrough.
Refugees, adventurers, no one in years, and suddenly we're overwhelmed. Well met. And thank you for beating back those goblins. Most brave of you. Is there anything you need? Act fast if you do. The ritual will be complete before too long.
And before we get down to business, let's ask about the Druid's ritual once more.
I know it's drastic, but more monsters seem to terrorize this region every day.
And indeed, what about the people relying on the grove for shelter?
We Druids will be safe. As for those that took refuge here, well, may Sylvanas guard them as they continue their travels.
From all we have gathered so far, the Tieflings will most likely not survive such an exodus. So, any thoughts on that?
As I said, it's a drastic measure. But the survival of the grove is paramount. There just aren't enough supplies to support everyone.
Well, there definitely aren't as long as we keep taking them, that's for sure. Speaking of which, let's do some trading now.
Just some bits and bobs I no longer need.
Right, the trade menu, I think this is quickly explained. There's two modes here. In the trade mode, we can buy and sell directly as long as we and the trader have enough gold, so it's always exchanging items for money. In the barter mode, meanwhile, we can compile an assortment of goods from both sides to match values. Ultimately, it is a matter of personal preference. Now, Arron here sells a few rather interesting magical items. We're not going to go over all of them or purchase any of them for that matter, at least not until we have seen the inventory of other traders in the grove. There are 2 more of them here. So for now, we are only selling. In fact, we are selling about as much as Arron can afford to purchase, mostly unwanted weapons, duplicate books, gems and trinkets, and that brings us to roughly 1,700 gold.
Sylvanas, guide your path.
Right, moving on, we want to move towards the left of the rocks here, where just around the corner a big stone door sits that takes us into a secluded chamber, a chamber in which we find Zevlor once again.
I'd advise you to settle your affairs here quickly. Once the Druids complete their ritual, we'll be sharing the road with goblins once again. Unless you've reconsidered speaking to them for us. Gorga might listen to you.
And now we can agree to help. Doing it this way ensures we get maximum approval from our companions.
I think you should. Yes. No harm in trying the diplomatic route.
We'd owe you a great debt. If we're forced to leave now, more of my people will die. You'll find the Druids at the heart of the grove. Please, make them see sense. No word from the scouts yet?
No, sir. But if there's a clear path past those goblins, they'll find it.
Yes, of course.
And after listening to the 2 of them, we now want to approach Zevlor once more.
Have you spoken to Gorga?
Well, obviously not, but there's other matters we can talk about.
What is it?
For example, it is a bit curious that the leader of the grove went on some adventure while harboring Tiefling refugees.
Some artifact Aradin was hunting. I don't know any more than that, and I don't want to. This grove is poorer for losing Halsin, but I have my own people's concerns to look to.
Now, the name Zorru here might ring a bell. Lae'zel overheard her Tiefling capturers speak it, and chances are we find him somewhere in this grove.
You'll find him in camp. What do you want with him?
No need to lie here, although I don't think Lae'zel appreciates us calling her fellow Githyanki strange creatures. Nonetheless, finding a creche could help us get rid of the tadpole.
Right. He's been going on about something of the sort. You'll find him in the caves, but we won't stay here much longer. See that you don't distract him from his duties.
Commander!
Just Zevlor, Tilly. We're civilians now, remember?
With respect, sir, being a Hellrider is for life. They can't take...
They can, and did. Avernus changed things. Best we get used to that.
Yes. Zevlor.
Alright, and to wrap up our visit, a quick line from Zevlor's associate here.
You're the one who helped at the gate. Glad to have another sword. We might need it.
Now, there's a bit more to this room than just the two tieflings. First of all, if we split Sylvia off of the rest of the group, we can acquire a few items near the sleeping spot here. Some food, some gold, a book, and some clothing. Also, there is a map on the table here.
If this map is accurate, we are in Eltergard. Baldur's Gate is some ways still.
These little markings look like goblins and gnolls, right in our path.
And indeed, it looks like the map only confirms the dangers in the surrounding areas. 2 more books can be read, but not taken without anyone noticing. We want to open them both though, as reading 100 books earns us another achievement. Afterwards, there are some rocks to the left here that we can climb up on, but before we take the ladder into the next area, we want to grab anything that is not nailed down up here. The tieflings cannot spot us from below, and a lot of it is alcohol, which tends to have a decent value to weight ratio and also serves as camp supplies. In fact, there is an achievement for completing a long rest using only alcoholic beverages, so we need to stock up. Once everything has been collected, we head up the ladder and find ourselves in a small outcropping overlooking the hollow, and there's someone here to speak to.
Used to think the goblins would kill us the second we set foot outside. But after hearing what you did at the gate, well, I still think they'll kill us. But at least we can put up a fight.
No need to be unrealistically confident here. After all, we're just trying to gather information. So let's ask about any potential tiefling soldiers that might improve their odds.
We're tougher than we look. We've survived persecution, survived Avernus. Who knows? Some of us might even make it to Baldur's Gate.
Well, at the same time, no need to be cruelly pessimistic, so let's offer some words of encouragement. Seems like that's what she wants to hear.
There's optimism, and then there's stupid, hun. Plenty of us fell to monsters already. I don't see the rest of us lasting long out there. But if you're so sure we will, why not put a little gold on the line?
Right, a little wager, although it might prove tricky to collect upon if one party is dead.
I'm sure you're good for it. Just leave the gold on my corpse. After seeing you at the gate, I'm sure you'll last longer than us.
And, well, we've made enough money so far to be able to afford the 10 gold bet here. Let's agree.
Excellent. And since I ain't one to leave a debt unpaid, that means we're destined to meet in Baldur's Gate. Looking forward to it. So many ways to die.
Indeed, that's why we want to take anything that might help us stay alive. The carrots from the backpack here are not considered stealing, and there's more. Heading over to the other side, we could, in theory, jump the small gap here and continue along the cliffside path and back out into the wilderness, but instead we want to climb up the cracked rock here, continue down towards the west, and find a heavy chest. This one contains some gold and 2 bottles of blue dye, honestly a bit underwhelming, but as far as I know the contents are randomized, so you might be able to pull some better loot. Either way, at this point we have grabbed all we can. Time to head back into the secluded chamber through the hatch here, and then back out of the stone door and into the hollow.
Don't make me hurt you, boy.
Too late! Looking at you is painful enough.
Okay, right away, it looks like we just witnessed another conflict brewing up. Let's pursue and perhaps intervene.
Give it back, kid.
I already told you I don't have it! How stupid are you?
Only gonna ask you one more time, boy. Hand over my locket.
I don't have your ugly locket. I've never seen it before.
Hand it over or I'll slap the teeth out of your head.
Right, so in this case we actually want to side with Barth. Even though we don't have any evidence of the theft, it just leads to the better outcome in my opinion.
I said I don't have it. Maybe he dropped it running away from those big scary goblins.
You little split-tongued freak!
As always, we'll go for the persuasion check. Admittedly, the tiefling does indeed not sound overly convincing, and a DC of 5 is trivial for us to beat.
What kind of question is that? Why does anyone steal anything? Fine. I have the stupid amulet. Take it.
Looks like our hunch was correct, but let's also find out why he took it. After all, there is probably no trader around that would buy it from him.
To impress a girl, most like.
It looked like my mother's, all right? Just take the damn thing and leave me alone.
Keep it, kid. You need it more than me. Poor kid.
Right, a bittersweet ending to this confrontation. Let's keep going. There's a few books up here that can be read and taken without it being considered theft, so let's do so before we then talk to the Tiefling guard.
We've known enough grief this 10-day traveler. Don't be the cause of more.
Sounds like a tense situation here in the Grove. Meanwhile, a recruitment poster calls for people to join the Baldur's Gate City Guard. Chances are one of the Tieflings, perhaps even the one we just talked to, has their eye on this career path in case they reach the city. Now, after we already spoke to Barth, one of the defenders against the Goblin Attacks, up next we can have a chat with Remira.
Damn goblins!
This first dialogue option here would give us another inspiration for indulging our Dark Urge. That is, if we hadn't already gotten one from kicking the Squirrel, as this particular inspiration can only be earned once.
You lose yourself in the scab's weeping sea. It is no masterwork, but it provides a base bliss to gaze upon.
Like the sight of blood, do you? Thought you'd have had your fill at the gate. Might be more blood spilled yet, if Zevlor starts in on the lectures again.
Here we can agree with her, not necessarily because we actually agree, but more because that's what is most likely to get a positive reaction. As a Dark Urge Bard, we should be good at this sort of thing.
Well, finally, someone who ain't got horns where their good sense should be. We expected a soft job. Something to test the new lad, maybe, but not a bloody goblin nest. Most would have turned tail at the sight, but not Liam, no. He charged him, the stupid bastard.
And indeed, since Liam was not among the ones returning from the adventure, that probably did not go as he had planned.
Nah. He must have thought we were following. Always the optimist was Liam. Hope they cut him down quick before he saw we were gone. Small mercies.
Right, and with the pickpocket dealt with, let's speak to Barth once more.
Hey. Thanks for stepping between me and the kid. My mum gave me that amulet, but I think she'd be happy knowing the kid has it now. Yeah, I know she would.
Some heavy-heartedness from him here. That's 2 done, 1 more to go. Let's speak to Aradin.
If it ain't the fearless Goblin Slayer, you sure you want to be seen with me? I ain't exactly popular with this lot.
Once again, we'll tell him what he supposedly wants to hear, and honestly, his side of things is not too hard to sympathize with.
Half my crew are full of holes. Now I'm gonna take the blame for leading the goblins here, and losing track of the bloody druid.
And because it might come to us paying those goblins a visit, perhaps he can tell us where to find them.
They chased us, all the way from the ruins we were poking around in.
And one can only assume that that's also where they lost the druid Halsin.
Aye. His name's Halsin. And if he's still alive, he'll be cursing the day he laid eyes on me. We've got a contract to track down some relic, and he wanted in on the job. Eyes lit up when he heard about it. Didn't work out, though. Goblins got him when we were turning tail. He's either digging latrines or boiling in a cookpot by now.
Right, so before asking to see the contract, let's ask the other 2 questions first. An adventuring party would surely be well equipped enough to handle a few goblins, right?
Wasn't no few goblins, mate. There's an entire hive of them. Contract failed to mention that part.
Still, if there weren't any challenges, there hardly would be a well-paying contract out on the relic, now would it?
Don't know what I expected. That much gold for some long-lost relic. And from a wizard, too. I should have known. The gold probably turns to lead the moment you leave Baldur's Gate. Stupid thing to die for.
Now, that seems like an awful lot of trouble to go through for a relic. Maybe he can tell us a bit more about what they were actually hoping to find.
If I knew that, I wouldn't be back here with half my crew gone. But look, if you're itching to meet Kellenvor, I won't stop you. It's called the Night Song. Supposed to be hidden under the temple where the goblins jumped us. I'd give you the map and wish you a happy funeral, but my mate Brian kept hold of it like his own Todger. Goblins made sure to the fat old chunk. All I've got's the contract. It'll show you where we turn back, if you feel like dying. Don't thank me. I'll be well on my way to Baldur's Gate when you die.
Alright, now that we're in possession of that contract, let's take a look at it, only to find out that it was issued by none other than the wizard Lorroakan, a name that we're already familiar with, and not necessarily for the best reasons. Still, that night song sounds intriguing. For now though, let's keep exploring the Hollow. Up next, we've got a tiefling couple to disturb.
And we'll have a dog, right?
They don't allow them in Baldur's Gate. Cats, though?
A little orange cat. And a house with a little door so that it can come and go as it pleases.
And a high fence to keep eavesdroppers out.
Once again, we'll show ourselves from our best side here and apologize, which leads to an interesting dialogue choice later.
Thanks. I suppose we'll all need it.
What about you? Big plans for when you get to the city?
Here we can now pick from one of 5 options, and I feel like as a Dark Urge character, the wish to be a wholly new person carries more weight than it may seem at first, so let's go with that one.
Know what you mean.
Do we ever?
But I've heard there's all sorts in the city. It might not be like it was in El Terrell. I mean, in Baldur's Gate, they give you a chance.
Good luck to you. Wish us a little too. I think we'll all need it.
Surely destined for the slaughter. What would be more perfect than to die by your love's side? And no love was not enough.
So, moving on, we've got one more tiefling. This one's another trader, and he's working the forge over here.
Thanks for fighting off those goblins. If you need to replace any gear, just ask. My selection's pretty slim. I had to leave most of my equipment in El Terrell.
Before we ask to see his wares, let's inquire about the forge, even though his reasons for using it seem rather obvious.
Of sorts. Used to be a bread and butter tinsmith before El Terrell fell into Avernus. These days my talents are more eclectic. Learned a lot in my time in the Hells. Hope to forget most of it. But between you and me, there's nothing in all the realms like the utter power of infernal machinery. Alas, my offerings are far more humble these days.
Right, time to trade. This time we're exchanging some of our goods for one of his, a safeguard shield that gives a +1 bonus to all saving throws. That shield could be useful for Shadowheart, who frequently uses concentration-based spells, and thus will always need to roll constitution saves when she's hit to maintain that concentration. Now she gets a little bonus to those. Up next, we can now get one short line out of the 3 tieflings we saw arguing earlier.
Lee and Roland would never admit it, but they take an arrow for the other. Also stab each other. Not sure what will come first. Thanks for cutting in. There might have been more than words if you hadn't.
Those goblins will rue the day they chose to tangle with this grove. You and I will do some good here. I can feel it.
My thunder wave will make quick work of any goblin. Just you wait.
Right, more or less self-centered in their stances. Meanwhile, we can loot a barrel and then talk to Okta.
You! Saw you fighting those slimy bastards. Fancy a bowl? Best to fill your belly now, while we still can.
Now, in this conversation, you can actually grab 2 bowls by picking the grey goo option at the bottom. However, as a Dark Urge, we can also get some inspiration out of this one by pushing our thoughts of delicious dwarf aside and accepting just the 1 bowl that is offered.
Look, it ain't much, but it might make all the difference. The only way we'll make it to Baldur's Gate is to run, and run hard. If a gnoll catches your scent, you'll need every bit of strength. Trust me.
And there we go. After indulging in our appetites, we have now successfully subdued them, earning us another point of inspiration and 30 experience points. Following this, we can now speak to Auntie Ethel.
If it isn't the talk of the camp. Thank goodness you came along when you... Oh. You're twitching something fierce, love. And your eyes. You look like you don't know the meaning of the word sleep. Auntie Ethel will sort you out. I've lotions and potions galore.
Right, freely offering her healing services, despite the fact that we've only ever been pointed towards Nettie, so let's find out who we're dealing with exactly.
Oh, nothing as fancy as that. But I come from a long line of women with a dab hand at such things. Aha! You take a sup at that and you'll feel right as rain, sweetie.
And, well, we're at full health, and I don't know about you, but maybe we shouldn't just drink anything that's offered to us. So once again, let's inquire further.
Oh, 'tis just a healing potion, nothing fancy. Here. You just look like you might need a pick-me-up. I'm sorry to go on about it, but are you all right? You're looking awful peaky.
Okay, she seems to have picked up on something. Perhaps we can find some unexpected aid here, although for now we can't really share more about our condition.
Then let old Auntie Ethel have a look at you. First things first. Tell me what's at you.
And it might be smart not to reveal our dark urges just yet. Instead, let's focus on our memory loss. That seems a bit more harmless by comparison.
No. That's as serious gets. Our path defines us, Petal. Without it, why, we could be anyone. Were you hurt recently? An accident of some sorts? That could explain things.
At this point, though, we probably need to reveal the full extent of our issue. If she can indeed be of service, I figure she needs to know what she actually needs to heal us from.
You poor pet! My heart goes out to you, truly. But I confess that doesn't explain all your symptoms. Some of the things you told me, why, I've never heard of a parasite doing that. This is serious. I've ne'er a potion or lotion here that could do it, but yes, I may have something at home.
And let's once again ask for more details. No need to decline a visit if she can help us.
I've collected some interesting bits and bobs over the years. You'll have to stop by my house, just at the edge of the forest. Let me mark it on your map. I'll be heading back soon, so I can meet you there. Now, do you need anything? I have a few odds and ends for sale. Nay, bother.
Right, as we open the trade menu here, it is revealed that it was indeed a potion of greater healing she handed us, and while we can now trade some items with her, for now at least we won't. She has a few magical things on offer, but nothing that we desperately need right now.
Be careful on the road. I'd hate if something happened to you. Take care, Petal.
So, all still a bit vague, but maybe a new avenue to pursue. For now, though, there's a rat running up and down the stairs here. Let's have a chat with it.
Stay back, or else!
And because threatening us has worked so well for the squirrel earlier, let's keep up Sylvia's confrontational side.
Or else, I'll bite you! Ow! Oh, my tooth!
Well, since this time around we cannot kick or otherwise harm the creature, we might as well make use of that medicine proficiency and have a closer look.
It's the front one. I chipped it on the evil thing.
Right, mention of the evil thing, of course, immediately gets our attention. Let's find out what exactly the rat is talking about.
In the box. Follow me, I'll show you.
Okay, let's follow up the stairs, past a cart, and to a small shack that we unfortunately cannot enter ourselves just yet, as the door is locked and in view of others. We can, however, grab a book and some food from the barrel in front of it, and then also have a brief chat with the tiefling we just passed by.
Goblins, druids, this grove is a death trap. Grab what you can and get out. That's my advice.
Well, grab what you can, no need to tell us that twice. So let's go to work on the cart here. Again, this is not considered stealing and helps us acquire some more supplies. Now that wooden gate to the north here we'll come back to a little later. For now, it seems like we found the Tiefling Zorru.
By Mordai's eyes, another one. My friend's blood not enough. Come to rip me open too.
In Kresh Kalir, a formal greeting begins with a bow.
Is this monster with you?
Right, Lae'zel already approves just from being in the party, and we can gain even more approval by siding with her in this conversation at the cost of a small loss of approval from Shadowheart.
Lower.
And once again, same thing, lots of approval from Lae'zel for letting her do her thing, and a minor penalty from Shadowheart.
You saw another Gith. Where?
On the road to Baldur's Gate, near the mountain pass. Saw us before we saw it. Jammed its blade through Yul's belly. Straight to the other side.
No twisting. Kin must have been in a hurry. The map. Show me. Up. You can keep your innards.
There we go, some info on the Githyanki's whereabouts, and while Zorru runs off, Lae'zel wants to talk.
God, deliver me.
The locals prove compliant. A useful trait.
I warned you, didn't I? You ought to reconsider keeping her around before she causes real trouble.
Once more, we want to side with Lae'zel here and praise her interrogation skills, as this earns us another big boost in approval.
A shell so thin requires little to crack it. The Tiefling was clear. If there are Githyanki west of here, that must be our objective. Purification cannot wait.
And yes indeed, it sounds to me like Lae'zel has some trouble pronouncing the word tiefling, or she made an elaborate joke.
I am unfamiliar with the, well, I shall not say culture. Custom, perhaps. You will educate me on matters of this Fey run.
Okay, I think it's becoming quite clear that Lae'zel is an utter stranger to these lands. Let's begin our education by teaching her the proper pronunciation of Faerun. Back to more pressing matters then. She mentioned a purification to be performed by a Kresh, and what exactly does that entail?
The Kresh holds the Zaithisk. It will cleanse us of the parasite. By covenant, I can say no more.
Right, over an hour in and there's still more to do. Let's approach the combat training area over here.
Children! Look who's here. Come. The Blade of Frontiers. What a thrill for the children.
They're tough kids. Smart, too. The future's in good hands.
And here's Wyll again, training the children himself. Let's have a brief chat.
Go on. Give me a best shot. Not bad. Again.
I can't do it. I'm not like you.
Umi, I don't need you to be like me. You just have to buy enough time to run. Come on. I believe in you. You can do this.
And while we're about to interrupt, we might as well encourage the young one. He might have to fight for real sooner than he'd like to.
You're on the right path, Umi. Go on now. Practice what you've learned. Well met. The Blade of Frontiers at your...
The man's smile bends downward, and his thoughts become yours. You are the blade of frontiers racing through the wastes of Avernus. Just ahead, a diabolical figure, red skin, single curled horn, blazes with flame, bloodied great axe held high.
Hell's great fires. You were on the ship.
And just to make sure, let us first of all inform Wyll of the Mind Flayer tadpole that is surely also resting inside his brain.
Doomed to shed our skin and become a lithid, or so the stories go. But we haven't sprouted any tentacles. Not yet, anyway. Could just be good luck. I'm not so...
Your minds collide once more. Wyll chases the fiend ignited with rancor. She is an infernal war devil. A threat to the living. Evil incarnate.
Shit! You saw her. Advocatus Diaboli.
Advocatus Diaboli. A devil's advocate. A champion in the blood war between diabolical forces and demons.
Now, succeeding the history check here unlocks this fourth dialogue option, promising to reveal a bit more about the possible impending doom that might make its way here.
That ship sailed the Styx already. All I can hope for is to limit the damage. Her name is Karlach, an archdevil soldier I swore on my good eye to kill.
I tracked her through the hells to the Mind Flayer ship, but the damned Illithids infected me before I could end her.
She's out there now, preying on the innocent. I don't kill her, she'll leave behind nothing but a trail of corpses.
Right, so as with all other tadpole survivors, we can ask Wyll to join us too, but for now, Karlach remains his business. Our priority remains getting rid of that parasite.
Just so you know, my first duty is Karlach. I'm oath-bound to go after her. But I won't deny this infection is bothersome. I accept your invitation.
Sorry, but there's no room for me.
Now, to unlock another small dialogue option later, it is actually important that we send Wyll to camp right now. At least for the last few moments of this episode, we do not want him to replace anyone.
A splendid plan. We'll talk more there.
And with Wyll leaving the area, we can now speak to Asherak again.
I saw you at the gates. You fight well. A few words for the kids? Spare a story or two.
Right, while it is awfully tempting to teach the children our Dark Urge ways, let's maintain a friendly facade and encourage them to trust and fight for each other.
Thanks. I prefer when they smile.
Following that, we can now also hear from the younglings themselves.
This is boring. We should train against real goblins.
Next time the goblins come, I'll be ready.
Oh, right. Go for the heart.
Now, there is one more tiefling to speak to, this one a bit older, but no less clumsy with a sword.
Step! Harry! Strike! Damn it! It's just not landing.
Let's enter the conversation with an innocent question here. Might be that he's having some trouble.
Nothing but. Goblins in the wild, out for blood, and the druids in here looking to kick us out. Or worse. We need to be ready for a fight. But I'm useless with a sword.
Right, several approaches possible here, but we want to use the Detect Thoughts option. A curious one, since we don't actually have that spell in our active loadout, but still, with a DC 10 intelligence check, we can attempt to read his thoughts, and with guidance just pushing us over the edge, we unlock the No Penny Required achievement.
He was only a boy. And I just froze while the wall tore his head clean off. Never again.
Succeeding at this then allows us to tell him to clear his mind and focus on the target, which is solid advice and earns us approval from the entire party.
You're right. I need to clear my head. And step, parry, step, step, swing. Yes! You really know what you're doing. Found this by the road. Bet you'll put it to good use.
For a bit of extra approval from Lae'zel, we can then also tell him to keep his mouth shut and to not shout out his moves in advance.
Oh, yes. I'll bite my tongue when the time comes.
Finally, some words of encouragement to end the conversation, and then we'll be on our way.
Hopefully it's just the goblins we have to worry about. The druids are treating us like vermin. But I'll keep at it. Thank you.
Lae'zel receives another inspiration from helping the poor fellow out, and with that we have finally reached the end of the episode. We are far from done in the grove yet, but for now let us return to camp, where, as you can see, Wyll has already taken up residence. We'll get to know him a little better next time. For today, let's make the cut at this point. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, you can subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, we've got a few new designs in store, support me on Patreon or become a channel member. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.